Growing up, there were 3 I's: intelligence, intensity, and integrity. Lessons taught to us by your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was not only a WWE champion, he was a fixture of the Attitude Era. Oh yeah, and in 1996, he won an Olympic gold medal for wrestling with a broken freaking neck.
Hey, learn the techniques and work hard. You'll be a champ someday.
Kurt Angle would not only become one of the most entertaining characters in the Attitude Era, but he would go on to become a member of the SmackDown 6, debut the Wrestling Machine in the WWE main event WrestleMania with Brock Lesnar, and then go to TNA and have a decade of the best wrestling matches that you've ever seen. Kurt Angle would come to the Notsam Studio to talk to us about all of that and more, including his advocacy for Team USA Wrestling, his struggles with addiction, and how he learned the business of professional wrestling. I kind of can't believe this is happening. So, with all that said, wow, it is my absolute pleasure to have in the Notsam Studio the one and only Kurt Angle. It's true.
It's damn true.
It's damn true. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, thank you.
It's great to have you here. I know you're always working on something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Right now, what I got going on is I'm an ambassador for USA Wrestling. I'm trying to raise money for the men's and women's Olympic freestyle wrestling teams and the men's Olympic Greco-Roman team. Something you might not know. Other countries like Russia and China and many other countries, they pay their athletes to train and compete. So their athletes don't have to get jobs. All they do is train and compete, and they get paid for it. We don't have that luxury in the United States.
Right.
So our athletes have to get jobs for the most part, and they have to train around their jobs. And when you're training around an 8 to 10 hour a day job, you're only going to get 2, 3, 4 hours of training at most. But what I'm trying to do here is make sure these athletes are taken care of. So I'm not trying to make them a super amount of money, but just enough to get by so they can focus solely on training and competition.
Yeah, and that is like it's a really interesting thing because part of pursuing a dream is like you still have to figure out how you're going to pay the bills. And if your dream is to be the best in the world at a sport, you can't really afford to take time off. Like it's not a hobby.
No.
You know?
When I was training back in 95 and 96, I raised money by doing like spaghetti dinner fundraisers or selling T-shirts or autographed photos. I had sponsors that stepped up for me, but I was able to make ends meet and I was able to train full time, 10, 11, 12 hours a day. And the result was a gold medal.
Yeah.
And I want that for the athletes today. And I just think that they deserve that type of opportunity because the 2024 Olympics just ended.
Yeah.
These athletes are already trained for the 2028 Olympics.
Yeah.
And the new athletes coming in that haven't been in Olympics before, they started training too. So I'm here early on so I can raise money for these athletes so they don't have to get jobs for the next 4 years.
Yeah. What's it like too? I always think about this when like, even when you excel at the Olympics, like you did, in 96, you win that gold medal. Yeah. You do it with a broken neck. Like you bust your ass to be the best wrestler, represent your country, do everything. But then you come home and there's like, a couple months of like, hey, remember the Olympics? But once that wears off,
tour and that's it.
Right. Like, what do you do? Do you sit there and think to yourself like, years of my life went into getting this medal, and you just expect me to figure out what's next?
You know what? That's the thing. I went to college. I got an education. I could be a teacher. That's what I graduated with, as a teaching degree, and that's all fine. But winning a gold medal, and then the next day you're waking up, it's like, what do I do now?
Right.
Because my whole life, that's all I chased after was the gold medal. I didn't go to college for academics. I went to college because of wrestling, to further my wrestling career, because I had a dream of winning an Olympic gold medal. So, it's just crazy how, things, change. And
and how old were you when you won the gold medal?
I was 27.
So you're 27 years old, and your life's work has been accomplished.
You're done, and you don't know what you're doing, and you fall into a depression. And,
you do,
and I tried a sports casting job for a year, and that That didn't work out very well. I wasn't very good at it. And then I started watching WWE Raw, and I fell in love with a character called Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I've heard of him.
And you've heard him?
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I want to be him. And these guys are such incredible athletes. I'm watching, I'm like, who says they're all fake? These guys aren't fake by any means.
Right.
I mean, there might be a predetermined winner, but what they're doing is really athletic.
So that's interesting. Like coming from the world of amateur wrestling, everybody had just told you that's the phony stuff.
Yes.
And then when you finally actually sat down and watched it, you went, wait, there's a lot more going on here.
And I'll tell you what happened. Vince McMahon offered me a multi-million-dollar deal. In 1996, right after I won the Olympic gold medal, I brought it to my agent, and he said, "You're not signing this. This is the fake crap. You're the real deal." He said, "I'll get you a job. Don't worry about it." He got me a sportscasting job. And it didn't work out very well. But.
So it's also really funny that you go in going like, I saw Stone Cold. This is proving that wrestling's cool. I want to be like him. And when you get there, the way you get to the highest level is to do the exact opposite.
My dream was crushed. I wanted to be Stone Cold. Yeah. I even wore a leather vest in Memphis when I was training.
To be like...
Yes. And they were like, you're not going to be Stone Cold. You're going to be the opposite. You're going to be a nerd. You're going to be a guy that follows the rules, but not really.
Right.
You know, and Vince McMahon is telling me I'm going to be this top heel in the company. I'm thinking, I'm an Olympic gold medalist. How could I be a heel? He said, don't worry, we'll get you there.
Do you think so, because I've heard you tell these stories before, do you think because you came from a world where you were coachable, where you were listening to great coaches to get better, that's why you were able to pick up on psychology? Because wrestling psychology is like an impossible thing for some people to figure out, and you... I guess you just listen and go like, okay, I'm just going to do what this guy tells me to?
Yeah, you know what? When I started out, they didn't train me that much. I had 7 months of training before I went on TV, and that's not a lot. And they didn't really teach me how to cut a promo. They taught me in-ring, psychology and technique in the ring, bumping and selling and all the stuff that goes with wrestling. But they didn't teach me anything else, so I didn't know if I was going to be entertaining. I thought I was just going to be this wrestler that was on the weekend show, the Superstar show, where I just wrestled every weekend and didn't have a character.
Yeah.
I just wrestled.
A good hand.
Yeah. And I really didn't know because I didn't think I had the personality for it. And then Vince McMahon says, listen, we're going to throw you in the water. You either sink or swim. And that's when it all started. That's when the Kurt Angle character started.
And it's kind of crazy, too, because we'll get there, but with the Kurt Angle character, you actually kind of had to remind people of what the skill level was because the personality got over so big,
right.
Yeah. And okay, so this has always been fascinating to me is that you've talked about this before about how you were like, I don't know, I don't understand, but I'll go with it. In your debut at Survivor Series, you interrupt the match to tell them not to boo an Olympic gold medalist. That can only be done if you know they're going to boo you. If they're not booing you and you interrupt and do that, it's like, what is...
Well, what happened was I was in the ring and I was getting beat up by Sean Stasiak.
Yeah.
And the referee comes over to me and says, listen, turn it around on Sean, knock him down, and go out and take the microphone and tell the crowd you do not boo an Olympic gold medalist. I said, what are you talking about? Because I never did a promo before. I'm like, are you kidding me? He said, Vince told me to do it right now.
Mid-match.
And so I get up and I knock Sean down. I go out and I'm like, hey, you do not boo an Olympic gold medalist. And they start booing me even worse. It was like, holy crap, this is working, And it went from it was boring, they were saying, because they didn't know who Sean or I were.
Yeah.
And so it turned into like I was getting heat. It was ridiculous. I couldn't believe how quick that happened.
That's so funny. Yeah, because, and I as well, because I remember when those vignettes started airing.
Yeah.
And it was always like, even when you were doing it, I was like, wait, when you went the best real athlete I was like, wait, I think he's going to be a villain. I think, but I always wondered if fans were going to pick up on it. And I always was just like, are the instincts just that good that he knows, oh, they're booing me, let me react to it. But it was that mid-match like set of instructions to go boom.
Yeah.
And this perfect scenario happens.
It was, Vince had big plans for me and he knew from the beginning what he wanted to do. And I always thought I'd be the best babyface, and he said, listen, they know who you are, but they don't really know you. And so it's much easier to create a heel character than it is a babyface. You got to get over as a babyface, and you're not over yet. And I was like, well, I want a gold medal, Vince. It has to be something. He said, well, listen, until they get to know you and your character, they're not going to really be cheering for you. And in a lot of instances, they might even be chanting boring, even if you're exciting to watch. It's just they just don't know who you are. So you might as well start with the heel character, and then eventually you go babyface down the road. And he was absolutely right.
And it's really funny because you just saying that, like, him saying they don't really know who you are, and you're going, I'm an Olympic gold medalist. That is the character.
Yeah, it was, exactly. Yeah, I was playing Kurt Angle, the man of the three eyes, intensity, integrity, and intelligence. And I'm an Olympic gold medalist, American hero.
Yeah, it's true.
It's damn true.
It's true. So, did you have instant aspirations to go, like, I'm going to go in there and be a top guy? Or were you acutely aware of, I'm just going to learn, like, these people around me are better than this at me. They've been doing it their whole lives.
Well, Vince did push me really quickly.
Yes.
I was starting out with Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit, like a lot of, top guys from WCW. And I knew that they were going to take me to a different level. And every month I got a bigger opponent and a better opponent, bigger opponent every month. And the more, I ended up wrestling Undertaker, then I wrestled Big Show. And it was like, whoa, but I'm losing all these matches. I'm not winning. So, there was a time where they had to get me to legitimately win. And they waited until I wrestled for the World Championship. And what happened was, the reason why Vince went with me to win the World Championship is because when I was at SummerSlam, I had a triple threat with The Rock and Triple H, and I got a concussion during that match.
Right.
And I got wheeled away, but I came back and I finished it. And Vince was like, this guy's reliable. I'm going to put the title on him.
Wow.
So it was like, thank you, Kurt, for doing what you did. We knew you were out of it, and but you still went forward, and you did what you had to do as a company man. And so he was like, I'm going to give you the title next month. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I've only been here for 10 months, but I'll take that. So it was crazy because and then I wrestled Stone Cold Steve Austin for the world title a half year after that.
Right.
So I beat the two biggest names in the business my first year and a half in the business.
Was there hostility over that, or did everybody else recognize how hard you were working as well?
They recognized how hard I was working, at least from what I felt.
Sure.
And I put my feelers out, made sure nobody was like, pissed off or jealous, but it seemed like they were genuinely cool about it. And they thought, this kid's raw talent, and he's still learning, because I was still learning. I was still being led through my matches. Even when I wrestled Rock for the world title, he led me through it. I wasn't me that was leading the match because I didn't know how. And I didn't have enough experience.
Yeah, of course. And I wonder too if there was almost like a likability about that. Like, these guys, it has to feel like, oh, I'm being respected if an Olympic gold medalist is coming in and saying, hey, can I learn from you?
Yeah,
You're like, oh, that's the right.
A person of that stature saying, hey, I need to learn more. Can you help me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that really, a lot of guys were like willing to help me because of that, because of the respect factor.
Yeah. Did that? Yeah. When you get knocked out cold, and I mean, man, when you watch that pedigree back and you realize what's happening, and the table goes out early, and you just head concrete.
Right on the concrete.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was that a scary thing when you wake up the next morning and go, oh, like, I figured out this was real, but this is really, really real?
Yeah. What happened is I woke up at 4:00 in the morning in the hospital, and I woke up and I came to, and I said, what happened? They said, you don't remember anything? I said, I remember coming out and Triple H put me up on a table, but I don't remember anything after that.
Wow.
And I was able to finish the match and everything, which Triple H led me through the whole time. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have got through it. But that gave me like validity, it made me valid. And the wrestlers were even like, if he was able to do that, this kid's incredible, and he wants to sacrifice anything that he can for this company. So it showed that I was a company player, and that, that I was respectful to my wrestlers, and, that I was willing to step up and do what I had to do to get it done.
Yeah. I would also imagine too, right, that because I'm sure a lot of athletes from outside of pro wrestling come in with a chip on their shoulder, and they don't want to do certain things.
Yeah.
I'll bet there are a lot of people who, when they get approached and go, hey, we want you to go up outside the arena with a placard
Yep.
that says Olympic Heroes for Abstinence.
Yeah, they're saying I'm not doing that. Yeah.
But you did it.
I was willing to make an ass out of myself no matter what, man. You know what? The thing was, it was easy for me because I was so legitimate. I was a badass in real life, winning an Olympic gold medalist. For me to make me look stupid or idiotic, it was easy because I knew the fans would still take me seriously when they had to.
Right.
So, I understand why it was a little bit easier for me than anybody else because I was legitimate.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have the documentation of it,
right,
in that gold medal.
Right, yeah.
And I would also imagine there weren't a lot of guys in the locker room that were like, "Oh, I'm going to try this guy."
No.
They were probably aware of your pedigree.
Yeah. You know what? I was a little nervous when I started wrestling. That's why I picked up on so quickly. I wasn't aggressive when I started. I let my opponents throw me around, and I stayed on the defense the whole time. I learned how to sell and bump, and I let them do whatever they wanted to me so that I would understand that half of the match is going to go to them and I get the other half. Because in an amateur wrestling, you're taught to go for the kill.
Yeah.
That's it. Take them down and pin them. And if I could have done that with any of those guys.
Yeah.
But, that's not the right thing because you're going to give 50%. You're going to take 50%. And I had to learn how to give before I took.
Was that hard to break? Like, is there that instinct that kicks in? Because it is a physical, you can be conscious of that.
Yeah.
But when you're in the middle of it and there's physicality and you're getting hit and somebody's a little stiff or whatever, that animal thing in you, just grab the legs and.
But you know what? I didn't have to. I knew that, I knew what I had to do to get myself on TV, and I knew that I had to realize that I couldn't be an aggressive person, and I had to just give whatever I could to my opponents and learn from there. And eventually I was able to add my repertoire and do all my suplexes, but it took me time. I had to let them beat me up and throw me around. So I realized, okay, I'm not gonna do every offensive move that I want to do. I got to give half to them and half to myself.
Yeah. And by the time you got there was that investment from fans that maybe didn't watch the Olympics, didn't keep up with amateur wrestling, but were like, we've been enjoying watching this guy get beat so much and the stories that he's told along the way that now we're invested and we want to see this guy kick ass.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You and Brian Gewirtz, the writer that was working with you.
My favorite writer.
Yeah. How did that connection build quickly between
quickly.
You two?
What happened was he was working for MTV.
Yeah.
And so we were doing something with MTV at the time, and he had that little guy, Joey Say, the rapper
from Kid Rock's.
Yeah. So Brian came up with a segment because MTV had Joey C doing something with him, and they had a pre-tape with me where I was doing a pre-tape with Joe C, and I went to him and said, "Hey, little guy," like he was a kid. "Hey, little guy, hey, would you like a lollipop?" And he was like, "Fuck you, motherfucker! I had more ass in my life than you had in a week." And it was like, whoa, But Brian got my character.
Yeah.
He understood that I was kind of nerdy and gullible, and he wrote for me incredibly well. I mean, all the entertaining stuff I did, it was all written by Brian. I mean, he really, really stepped up for me.
It's also, but I think the strength of you as a performer is you never broke. No. Like that face that you, that look of shock when you think this child is cursing at you. I can picture that face in my head right now. And that face, you never let on.
No,
that I'm in on
it. Made
this.
It look real. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the believability and the enjoyability of that Kurt Angle character is
Definitely.
No, he really loves milk and thinks people should be abstinent and is offended by this stuff. Was there an irony when you were like, okay, we're gonna have you spray the ring down with milk, we're gonna have you do the milk bats and everything, knowing I was watching Austin do this with beer, and that's what convinced me that wrestling was cool.
Yeah.
And now,
I'm doing it with Milk.
Yeah.
You know what? Honestly, I love that segment. That was my favorite segment of all time.
Wow.
Go into the arena, and it's Stone Cold Steve Austin, the biggest star in the history of the business, is in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
I got to spray him down with milk and imitate his beer truck gimmick. And wow, man, that was telling me that the company had so much faith in me, to do something that big.
It's an investment.
Yeah. And to do it with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to know that the company had that faith in me.
Yeah. How did you? Okay, before I get into Stone Cold, going back to Gowertson, because it was like he was working with The Rock, he was working with Edge and Christian, and at some point, and Jericho, yeah. But at some point, somebody realized there was a chemistry between you and Edge and Christian.
T-Mac, yeah.
in the middle of Edge and Christian doing like the most ridiculous stuff on television, they were like, let's throw Kurt in there. Like, did you know that would work immediately, or was there just this sense of like, oh, there's a chemistry here?
What's crazy is we had chemistry because we were all traveling together. Mm-hmm. We were all friends.
Oh,
because we were all in the Dory Funk Dojo.
Of course.
And that's where we met, and we were all very close. So when I would travel around WWE, I traveled with Edge and Christian, and we just got this camaraderie about us, and we had such great chemistry by traveling together for real, and so we made it real on TV, and it came across really well.
It must be so fun to just have that realization that I can be the silliest person here because I know I can kick everyone's ass. Like, it's not a concern of mine.
Right.
What an awesome scenario.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. I even, some of the stuff I did with Stone Cold with the cowboy hat and stuff. It was just, my battle raps with John Cena, Sexy Kurt. Like, Brian was on fire.
Yeah.
Like, his writing was just incredible.
When you started working, by the time you're working with Stone Cold and doing those skits and stuff with him, you've kind of gotten your sea legs under you a little bit more. You're kind of comfortable with the performance.
I was coming in my own.
Yeah.
I was a year and a half into the company.
Yeah. And because it felt like, it was almost like when you watch one of those SNL skits and you can tell they're trying to break each other.
Yeah.
That you guys were both trying to.
What's crazy is Vince said, hey, we're going to do these pre-tapes. But last week was a disaster because you guys kept breaking character and you guys kept laughing. So this week, if you break character, you get fined $2,000. So I got fined $8,000 because I broke character 4 different times. I mean, and you know what? I started getting serious. I was like, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah,
I'm gonna lose all my money. So I wouldn't break character anymore. I don't know how I was able to do it. But
when there's money on the line, you can do interesting things.
Yeah, when Vince is finding you $8,000.
Yeah, and you realize it's not just an idle threat. You're like, my check is $8,000 short. Like it's you broke character.
Paycheck is suffering. Yeah.
Were you and Steve also had that sort of really amazing chemistry, especially Steve doing kind of new stuff at that point in his career where he was trying the heel stuff, but also kind of leaning more into that entertainment side.
He was the whole what thing.
Yeah.
And, everything that Steve was doing, he reinvented himself.
Yeah.
And he became a great heel and an entertaining heel.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think people didn't really hate Stone Cold. I think they were winking at him, playing the part, saying, we know you're a heel right now. We're going to have fun with it. We're going to boo you.
Right. Because you want us to.
Yeah. And because he had that much respect from the fans. So he was like, listen, folks, I'm playing a character. Follow me.
Yeah.
And they did. They did. Yeah.
It was interesting, too, because, I mean, that's probably the tightest, and I don't mean in terms of friendship, I mean in terms of people trying to make their way up there, the main event scene has maybe ever been, in the sense that there were no cracks. Like trying to get into that scene with Austin and Rock and Undertaker and Jericho and
there were a slew of guys, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. Yes.
But you were able pretty quickly to slide your way. Triple H too, of course.
I snuck around up to the top. I don't know. I don't know how that happened, but it happened pretty quickly.
Did you? At what point did you realize people were coming in and kind of starting to go to you for advice or looking to you as somebody that's like, oh, I should try to be more like Kurt?
After I main evented WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar.
Wow.
Once I did that, I had guys coming to me for like advice. Yeah, where I became the veteran.
Yeah. And by then you felt comfortable.
Yeah, I was still, I was probably 3.5 years in the business, which is still relatively young.
That's so crazy. Even for me to think about you and Brock and that phase in your career, I'm like, yeah, I mean, Kurt was like 10 years in at that point. It's like
Right,
3.
it wasn't. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just because you did so much.
I did.
In such a
accomplished
small
a lot
period
in
of
that
time.
Small period of time. You're absolutely right. And I couldn't thank Vince McMahon enough for giving me that opportunity, because he had a lot of other guys he could have pushed.
Yeah.
And for some strange reason, he snuck me through to the top, and I never looked back. So it was. I knew I deserved it, but it wasn't like I needed it. I think that there are other guys that probably needed it more than I did, but he did. He pushed me to the top and made me the champion, and I had a really good run for about 6 months.
Yeah. And also, I mean, that sink or swim thing, like you never sank. Like you always delivered with what was supposed to be delivered, I think. And when that happens, it's like, well, we got to go with it.
Yeah, and you know what? My promos, I didn't even know if I could cut a promo.
And they were great.
They never had me work on it. And I remember the first night, Vince wanted me to cut a promo in Pittsburgh, and I was right after Survivor Series. And it was the first night on Raw. It was after my debut, the night after my debut. And he tells me, listen, this is what you're going to say. So he starts talking, and he's talking for like 7 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about. I wasn't even listening, because I was like, are you kidding me? You're going to tell me. You're not going to write it down.
You're
So
one day into the main roster.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, now you heard everything I said. I said, Vince, I'm sorry, but I didn't hear a word you said. You're going to have to repeat it. And he was kind of pissed. He's like, all right, I'm going to say it one more time. And he said it, and I went out there and I cut the promo, and I got about 80% of it right. And he was like, I got somebody special here.
Yeah.
This guy is able to retain information incredibly well.
Yeah.
I didn't get 100% of it right, but I got about 80%. So then they were starting writing promos for me, and they were super long. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to memorize these. And I didn't know how to ad lib. I learned from memorizing.
Wow.
So I'm memorizing 3 pages of scripts and going out and doing the promo word for word.
I mean, because you would, if you go back to like the late 90s there, the early, you're monologuing your way to the ring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just talking about whatever.
For 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. And I just, it's because I have a photographic memory, and I was able to remember every word that was written down on the page.
So when you're doing these promos, are you literally picturing what the page looks like and almost letting your brain read it?
You know what they're doing in the back?
What?
They're making fun of me because they're saying, holy shit, he's reading it word for word. Like, not one word did he skip. It was crazy. So now it became a joke. Everybody's backstage, reading the script and seeing if I copy it exactly. And I did.
Which, you know how this works. All that means is next week they're coming back with a more complicated script because they want to pop themselves while you're out there like...
Well, you know what? They actually did at one point in time. I had 10 minutes to memorize a 3-page script. It was about China, and they just gave it to me 10 minutes before the show started.
Of course they did.
I'm like, holy shit, like I might be able to read this over twice. And the crazy thing is I did it word for word.
Oh my gosh.
And they were like, man, this guy's an animal.
Yeah.
So it was like he can do everything. He's entertaining. He can wrestle. If I didn't have the injuries I had, I'm not gonna lie to you. I might ended up being one of the very greatest of all time. Easily.
Yeah. Just because the tools box is so diverse.
Yeah.
In the sense that like you could be plugged into so many different roles and you didn't have any hangups about anything.
Right.
But it is so crazy. And I hope people do like watch this and start going back to stuff. Because you would think you're improvising the whole thing. Like they give you a kind of idea.
Right.
And you're just out there, but that's not what your background is.
No.
Do you think that all goes back to the discipline of being that elite level athlete, that you applied that discipline to literally
I
whatever
so.
assignment?
Yeah, because I worked so hard, and I always planned everything accordingly, and wanted to make sure that all facets were covered, that I made sure that I was technically sound, that I was in shape, that I was on weight. Everything had to be organized. Mm-hmm. And I used that organization when I entered the WWE.
Yeah. I would also imagine it's a singular focus thing, right? That's kind of what I like about athletes is they have that ability to singular focus on exactly what the task at hand is. There's no multitasking. There's no, it's like, this is what
Get the job done.
Right. Yeah. And you can, if you want, I guess, apply that to memorizing a promo.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, exactly. And I did, man. I don't know how I did it, but I did it.
It's amazing. It's almost more impressive. It is more impressive to go back and look at that. The match with Shane, the King of the Ring match.
Yeah, that was a nightmare. We both ended up in the hospital that night. We were so stupid. We're in the hospital high-fiving each other. We're both crippled. And I'm looking back today and I'm like, we were so dumb.
Yeah, why?
We were so happy that we were banged up because we tore the house down.
I mean, it is. It's one of those things where, we're still talking about it today.
Yeah.
People who saw that will remember it forever. It's one of those.
I always hear that. You know, one of my favorite match of yours was you versus Shane.
I remember I was sitting in the audience for it, and I remember watching, and I'm sitting there watching. It's probably somewhere around where the hard cam was, and kind of so looking down at an angle. I'll always remember because I'm looking at the entranceway there. And you just keep slamming that poor kid into that glass. And I can't believe what I'm seeing.
His head kept hitting the concrete. I could hear it. And I was like, Shane, we got to move on. He's like, no, throw me through the effing glass.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Shane, it's not working. And what happened was it was supposed to be sugar glass and it was plexiglass. Oh, so we were going through real glass. That's why we got so blighted up.
Right. And it was plexiglass. It had that plastic shard thing to it, right?
Yes.
Oh.
So it was supposed to be sugar and they messed up.
And you could see, too, the way you, when you kind of watch as much wrestling as I watch, I guess, you can see the difference between, let's say, storytelling blood, where it's real blood, but it's there for a narrative purpose. And, he doesn't need to have a gash in his tricep. This is real.
No, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
right.
something happened.
Usually, you're going to gig up here, but we were on our backs and on our arms. And
does it at all occur to you in the midst of that okay, it's stupid enough to just do this with anybody.
Yeah.
But the third or fourth clunk of his head on the concrete, are you
the boss is signing?
Yeah.
Listen, Vince was ready to come out there. He wanted to stop the match, and it was Shane's fault. Because he wanted to go through that glass and he wasn't going to stop till I did it.
Yeah.
And I tried twice the first time, and then the third, I got him through, and then I had to throw him back through it the other way, and he bounced off 2 more times, and so I threw him face first through because I knew that would work.
Right.
And that's when he got all bloodied up on his face.
It's going to suck, but you'll go through.
Yeah. I had to because he was going to either break his neck or get a concussion because I kept hitting the glass. And he'd fall on his head on the concrete floor. And you could hear it.
Yeah.
It was like, man, this guy, he has to have a concussion.
Yeah. Man. And then what were your injuries from that you were in the hospital?
I broke my tailbone. That's when Stone Cold and I started doing the funny skits. Because he broke his back, I broke my tailbone, and Vince didn't want his 2 top guys to be sitting at home. So he brought us on the road and had us do entertaining segments.
Now you're kumbaya.
Yeah, kumbaya, yes, with Stone Cold, yeah.
Wow. Did somebody come to you and go, Kurt, let's lose the hair. We've got an idea of how we're going to do it. Or did you go, all right, because look, I mean, I've been there. You look in the mirror one day and you go, it's time to go. Did you? Yeah.
What happened was I knew I was losing my hair. Sure. So Vince came to me and said, listen, I don't know if you know it, but you're losing your hair. That's what he said. I said, I think I know, Vince. He said, well, I want to have a hair versus hair match against Edge.
Yeah.
You against Edge. And obviously Edge will win and he'll shave your head.
Yeah.
I said, that's cool, Vince. I'm fine with that. He goes, well, I just want you to have a better look because you are going bald. But he said, listen, don't tell Edge. I said, why not? He goes, well, I'm going to tell him he's losing and that you're going to shave his head. And so when we told Edge, he had this boo-boo face. He wanted to cry. And it was like, he pulled me aside and said, listen, I don't know how I'm going to look bald. My head is really ugly. I said, I'm sorry, Edge, but I'm gonna have to shave that head at the pay-per-view. And he was so upset. And then the day of the pay-per-view, we still didn't tell him. And he's up in the rafters and he's like all depressed and I'm like telling Vince, look up at the rafters. He's way up there. He won't come down. And he's like, well, I'll tell him in a few minutes. So he ended up breaking the Edge, and Edge, ended up getting happy at that time.
Yeah.
And then he eventually won and shaved his head. But what a rib to put on Edge.
It's so great because he still remembers it because he was down here sitting where you're sitting going, yeah, they told me that I was going to lose and I was worried about losing all my hair. The guy still has a perfect head of hair. He should never shave it. I know.
And we were going to, Vince would just, that's how Vince was.
Yeah.
It
is interesting though because like with that, you end up going, aesthetically goofy right after that because you do the old like Buddy Rogers with the wig and the headgear.
Yeah.
But also you start transitioning. I feel like that is when you kind of really started to make that transition into, all right, it's time to show everybody what a badass
the wrestling machine.
Yeah, the wrestling machine.
Yeah, that was the time.
Yeah.
That's when Vince, even though he's like, listen, I know you're doing some crazy ass stupid shit, but we need the fans to start taking you more seriously.
Yeah.
And I was like, Vince, I love doing the funny stuff. He said, well, we're not going to do it much longer. And we didn't, unfortunately, but I loved it.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it because it was getting me over.
Right.
And Vince felt that the fans weren't taking me seriously anymore, and I thought they were. But for some reason, Vince didn't agree, and he decided from, after that wig thing, I didn't do anything goofy or stupid.
That's the end.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
And then I became the wrestling machine. I was taken more seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, but it also meant every match you had was probably much more physically demanding.
It was. The matches were better, and I was having more classic matches, and I got the reputation of being the best worker in the business at that time.
And that's probably when people started going, oh, that's when you became this veteran. That's when you became this guy.
That's when I turned babyface,
right?
Too. Yeah.
Right. Because that's one of those things that you just look at a guy beating people, like performing at an elite level like that, you can't be a heel like that, really. Yeah.
It got so crazy. I never toot my own horn, but I got so over that Vince had me doing promos, putting down the crowd, and they were still cheering me.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where Vince was like, we're gonna piss them off till they turn on you, and they weren't turning. When I said, this town sucks, you guys are a bunch of idiots. Yay! It's like, oh my gosh, Vince, what are we doing here? And Vince didn't even know what we were doing.
Yeah.
So I was like, do you want me a babyface or you want me as heel? He said, I want you as babyface. I said, then why do you want me to do heel promos? He said, I don't know. So it's just crazy how, his philosophy was just weird.
Yeah. What was it like around that time? That's when the brand split kind of goes all the way. You become one of the SmackDown 6.
Yeah.
Working with Paul Heyman with that sort of launch of SmackDown and this new style of what this show is going to be and how it's going to be differentiated from Raw. What was that like, and what was Paul Heyman like around that time?
I love that time in wrestling.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman's a genius. He was always the guy that came up with the incredible ideas, incredible storylines, and any concepts that we had. Paul doing the SmackDown 6, it made SmackDown the better show.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, Raw was entertaining.
Yep.
They were the storyline show, but we were the wrestling show. And that's what I loved about it, going out there. And that's when I was taken more seriously and wasn't doing all the funny stuff anymore.
Right.
So me being on SmackDown was better for me than it was on Raw, because on Raw you were supposed to perform, on storylines, and SmackDown you just wrestled.
Yeah.
I even had Brock and I had a match where we were the whole TV show that night.
Yeah, the Iron Man match.
Yeah. So they had promos of us leading up to the match. So we were all the whole 2 hours. That was all us. And it was like, okay, I know where they're using me. They're using me because I'm the best wrestler in the company.
Right. And because they got this, and evidence of that is when we want to get Brock we really want to show people that Brock is the next guy.
Yeah.
You're the guy he's got to
get him over.
He's got to be in there with. Yeah. What was it like working with Brock at that period in his career when he's first coming in, kind of the same way that you were, and doing a completely different act, but is just as instantly natural to pro wrestling as you were?
He was. And he actually did it quicker than I did.
Yeah.
He was world champion in 5 months.
And he beat, but he pinned the same guy that you did.
Yeah.
Rock.
Yeah, well.
He pinned the Rock, right?
Wait a minute. His first title was against me.
His first
world title was against me.
Oh, so
WrestleMania 19.
Right.
He wasn't supposed to win. I was supposed to win that match.
Right.
But
He beat The Rock.
I broke
after.
my neck.
Yeah.
Right. Then he beat The Rock. Yeah.
Right.
But that was Brock's first world title, and he was only 5 months into the business. I mean, he trained for 2 years in OVW.
Sure.
He was only on TV for 5 months, and that's the quickest rising star I've ever heard.
And it was the main event.
Yes, we were the main event at WrestleMania, and he, man, God bless him, he almost broke his neck himself.
I mean, what is the vantage point that you had when that happened, the shooting star press happens, and it's like at first not only goes wrong but looks catastrophic. Yeah. Are you watching him in the air and realize immediately like, oh no?
Yeah, I knew he was going to fall short. And the issue was my neck was so messed up, there was no way I could do another match. So if Brock's is crippled, okay, and he can't wrestle anymore, I'm going to have to pin him now. And I'm going to have to go on and have another match with somebody else.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, God. So I go to cover him. I'm like, Brock, please kick out. Please kick out. He kicks out at the count of 2. And then I go to pick him up, and I say, Brock, are you okay? He didn't say anything. I'm like, Brock, tell me, are you okay? He goes, I think so. And I was like, all right, well, listen, can you give me your finish? He said, you mean now? I said, yeah, I'm picking you up. He goes, I think so. And he lifted me up, gave me the F5 and pinned me. So
wow.
I was like, thank you, Lord. So, because I didn't want to carry that title another night because my neck was so bad. I didn't have function of my right arm.
For the match?
I couldn't even raise my right arm over my head.
Wow.
So I could only get it to here, and it was a lot of effort. Yeah. So I had a really... difficult time. I was struggling at that point in time. And the thing is, I wasn't supposed to wrestle at WrestleMania. I don't know if you know this, but I was supposed to drop the title to Brock the week before because of my neck. But I told Vince McMahon, I want to do WrestleMania. That'll be my last match before surgery. And so I had to get a doctor to clear me, though. That was the hard part.
Yeah.
But we found somebody that did it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, watching the match, you can't tell the...
No,
you know
I
watch
it too, and I'm like, wow, I can't tell that I had my neck was broken or anything.
Not at all. Not at all. As a matter of fact, yeah, the only thing that anybody ever goes... The only thing that went wrong in that was the shooting star. Everything else is like great.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
Kind of a classic. It's a classic sort of. It lives up to the expectation of what Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar should be doing.
I know Brock
in the main event.
Preferred a better finish.
Sure. Sure. Was there any part of you that was like, I need to leave now for a while? Like, not just to get a surgery, not just to like, I've done so much because, I mean, up until, that was 19, right? WrestleMania 19. Yes. Up until then, like we just said, you had done so much, but it's because you were riding the lightning. You were, just boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Did you think at all, like, I need to go home for a couple years?
I wish I would have. The issue I had was I caught the bug. Instead of waiting 3 months to let my neck heal, I waited a month and I came back. I told my doctor, you're going to approve me to come back now. He's like, you're not ready yet. I said, yes, I am, and my neck's fine. So I jumped back into it too quickly, and I broke my neck again. And then I took a month off again, and I jumped back into it again. I broke my neck again.
So that's 4.
Yes, that's one from the Olympics, 3 from the WWE, and then I broke it again a year and a half after that in 2006.
So it's 5 total.
5, yes.
Do you understand what it's like to live the life that you've lived, where you can go? Yeah, to most human beings, it's not fathomable to be like you break your neck. It's like, I'm done. I don't know. Like, that's it. Right, yeah. You're like, yeah, I did it 5 times.
The beautiful thing about WWE is, and I'm not saying that what I did was right, but you can always work around your injuries. So you know your capabilities. If your neck is broken, you know what you can do and what you can't do.
Right.
And you try to stay away from the things that you can't. That's the cool thing about WWE. I was injured 98% of my career. I was always hobbled with an injury. I always had to work around them. And so I was able to do that. And, not that I wasn't taking a chance, because when you have a broken neck and you're wrestling, you land on your neck wrong one more time, you're going to be paralyzed.
Right.
That's what the doctors were telling me. Just do not land on your head. And that's, they said you do that, you're most likely either going to be paralyzed or you're going to be dead.
And is that something that you tell, like, the locker room, hey, whoever I'm working with, you got to know?
Listen, no DDTs. Yeah, nothing where I go on my head.
Yeah.
You have to be careful, yes.
Yeah, especially because, that's got to be very scary for you, because it had happened before. Like, you had taken that pedigree stuff. Like, you'd taken shots that they were describing. This is what you can't do.
Now I can't do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. When John Cena comes in, because it's interesting that you were in the main event scene from the Attitude Era, and also part of that transition that brings in
Cena, Batista.
Yeah, the next main event scene.
Ruthless aggression.
Yeah. How did you? At what point, or did you ever get to a point where you were like, yeah, this Cena kid, he actually does have something?
I knew he had something the first night I wrestled him.
That first,
he was a bit robotic.
Yeah.
He was a really big, strong kid. And I didn't know if he could cut a promo, but man, was I surprised. He was really good. He was very intense. He had a great match with me. And I thought, man, if they could do something with this kid, he's going to be something else.
Yeah.
I really knew that. But what's crazy is they almost fired him. Because they couldn't find anything for him. And it's like, wow, you're talking about possibly the greatest WWE wrestler of all time, and you're going to fire him? You know?
But that goes back to how you came in, right? That like you coming in and having a personality right off the bat, a character right off the bat, literally interrupting your first match to cut a quick promo.
Yeah.
Like that's how we know John Cena can be as good as John Cena is, but if I don't know who this kid in the tights is,
right.
I don't care,
But once he came up with the rapper gimmick, that was it, man.
Yeah.
And he stole the show.
Yeah.
I mean, he was hot, he was fresh. Fans loved him. I'll tell you what, half the fans still hated his guts, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it's because Vince McMahon pushed him really, really hard, probably too hard at the beginning. But I don't know if that was the reason why the fans hated him. I'll give you an example. Roman Reigns. When Roman started, he was good. He got better, and now he's one of the best in the business. But he wasn't ready for what Vince had in store from him. And the fans knew that, so they didn't like him.
Right.
And even though he's a babyface, they were booing him.
Right.
And they continued to boo him, and eventually they turned him heel, which is the best thing they could have done.
Yeah.
And now he got appreciated as a heel. Now he's a babyface.
And one of the
biggest star in the business today.
Yes.
So, I don't know if Vince took his time trying to turn him heel or if he just was in denial and trying to keep him babyface, but they eventually made the right move, and now Roman Reigns is the best in the business.
He is. Now he is, and that's something that there were a lot of people who had given up on that guy. And I mean, look, there were a lot of people that were like, I don't know if this Cena thing is ever going to click, but Cena's the same way that, they're talking about him coming back now for his year, retirement run. And I mean, the Cena sucks chants have gotten so quiet. Everybody kind of appreciates
Everybody's
him now.
Respecting him. Yeah.
Have you thought about that at all? Like the fact that Cena's coming back. You had your retirement match with Corbin, but have you thought, like, I wonder if there's any room to sneak in and get one more in?
Listen, I'm sure if I made a call, I could make it happen, but there's no way I can do it.
You can't physically.
No.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to, be at one of John Cena's retirement matches.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the one that had his first match, and I wanted John to be my retirement match. I don't know if you knew that, but I requested that to Vince. He said, you're going to have to wait till next year because you have a program with Baron Corbin. So I was like, okay, but I don't think I can go another year, Vince. He said, well, then, that
Corbin's
it is what it is. Yeah. So, I love Baron Corbin, but I just felt that my second time in WWE, I wasn't so much appreciated. I think it has a lot to do with me leaving the company high and dry in 2006 and going straight to TNA. See, I was supposed to go back to WWE in 6 months.
After you left.
Vince wanted me to take 6 months off and come back. So literally when I left his office and I quit, I called WWE and got a contract that day.
You mean TNA?
Or TNA, yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't wait a second. I knew what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And I think there was like, okay, well, if he comes back, we're going to teach him a little lesson.
Yeah. Humble him a little.
Which is fine. Yeah. I understood.
Yeah. Although the TNA run was incredible.
I love my TNA run. I think I came into my own right about around 2006 is when I was having my best wrestling. And that's when I moved over to TNA. And I was having matches with AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and all these incredible athletes in TNA. And I'm thinking, man, my career has actually been better here. Now, not more entertaining, but I think from a wrestling standpoint, it was better.
Yeah. Your what I think was your last WWE was under the ECW banner.
Yes, it was.
But the last match was like 20 minutes up the road.
Where was that?
It was at the Westchester County Center, if I'm not mistaken. Because I think I was there for that one too. It was you and Rob Van Dam.
Yes,
And
yes.
it was an ECW branded house show. It was,
and that's where I pulled I ripped my groin muscle, my ab muscle, and my hamstring. Oh, I ripped all of them all in one move. RVD, I did an angle slam, and I got him up, and RVD did a spinning DDT. And when I went to put my head down, my foot stuck in the mat, and my hamstring blew out. I tore it, and then my groin tore, and then my ab tore. Oh, and so literally the next day, I went to SmackDown the next day, and they were having a production meeting, and all the writers are in the front, and then all the agents and producers are in the back, and Vince is up front with the writers. I walk in, I pull my pants down to my ankles. There's women in there. And my middle section, my groin was black. Okay? My hamstring was black. It was black all the way down the front of my leg, all the way down, because the blood traveled down because of all my muscle tears. And my whole leg was black. Oh. And I wanted Vince to see it.
Yeah.
I said, and he's like, I guess you're not going to be in the ladder the ladder match tonight with Eddie Guerrero. And I was like, no. But I said, listen, I need to have a meeting with you. I need to go up and meet you at headquarters. He said, well, let's do it tomorrow. He said, you know what, take the night off. So he let me take the night off, and then I went up the next day, and that's when I got released.
And but with the intention being, we're going to let you out of your contract, call me in 6 months.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I wanted to get out of my contract. They didn't have to do it. They actually, if I wouldn't have, okay, I did tell Vince, and this is something that really difficult for me to say, but when I went to Vince, I told him, I said, listen, I'm not going to be able to, or what I'm afraid is going to happen, Vince, is I'm afraid I'm going to kill myself. I didn't mean stab myself in the stomach or shoot myself in the head. I meant I was going to take too many pills and kill myself.
Yeah.
I said, I need to get out of here. You got to let me go, because they didn't want to let me go. I said, listen, I don't want to say this, but I feel like I'm going to kill myself if I don't do something now, if I don't get released. He says, you know what? He put his hands up. He said, Kurt, you're released. No problem. Come back in 6 months. We'll have the same contract for you. And unfortunately, I already have my sights set on TNA. And so I ended up going there.
When you said that,
I didn't hear from Vince, nothing for the next 11 years.
When you said that, were you doing it to kind of manipulate, or were you being sincere?
I was scared.
Yeah, you were scared.
Yeah. Because I eventually got off the painkillers, but it took me some time.
Yeah.
And it was just it was a really, the meeting I had, Vince literally, this is crazy, but I was texting Vince while I was taking pills at night, and I was texting like he wouldn't answer the phone when I call him, and I was texting him, threatening him, Vince, I'm going to kick your ass when I see you. I'm going to F you up when I see you. Wait till I see you, Vince. I'm going to beat the shit out of you. And so now he has 3 pages of text typed on paper of my messages to him.
Yeah.
And I'm reading them in the meeting. I'm like, I don't remember saying this shit. Vince, I'm going to kick your ass. I'm like, Vince, I don't remember saying this stuff. He goes, you want to kick my ass? He gets up. He takes his jacket off. I'm like, oh, my God. Like, this guy wants to fight me.
Yeah.
So I put my head down, and I was like, I got to get out of here. I left the room. I started crying, and I came back in. I said, Vince, listen, I'm sorry, but I got to get out of here. You got to let me go. He said, no problem. Go.
Wow.
Go. And you know what? He hugged me, and he was really cool. He let me go, and he was willing to give me a contract when I came back in 6 months, but I already made up my mind where I wanted to go. I just felt at that point in time I was being overworked, and wrestling 280 days a year can really take a toll on your body.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go part-time, but the problem was I didn't have enough experience. So what I'm saying is it's a WWE rule. If you don't have 10 years experience, you can't go part-time. So I had 6 at the time. So Vince was like, hey, the rules are the rules. You can't go part-time yet. So I was like, damn, I got to get out of here then.
Yeah. And that makes sense that you would need that limited schedule. Is it dangerous because it would be a while before you got cleaned up? Is it dangerous that when you're in the throes of addiction that you're also having some of the best matches in your career? Like, does that trick the mind into thinking, obviously I'm okay?
Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah.
I was on painkillers and I was having some of the best matches of my career. And it surprises me because, some of the matches I don't remember, which is ridiculous. So, knowing that I was able to have those type of quality matches when I was on painkillers makes me realize how good I would have been if I was off of them.
Yeah.
So, but I look back and as much as I'm proud of my career, there's a lot of uncertainty. I don't know what was happening part of the time, and I wish I did, because you want to carry memories with you.
Yeah.
My WWE run was a blur. I don't remember a lot about it.
Wow.
And a lot of it is because I was taking painkillers, Xanax and Soma.
Wow.
So I was taking cocktails and. I just got really messed up. I got deeply addicted, and I couldn't pull myself out of it. I needed help.
Is it especially unnerving the fact that you're a person who has this photographic memory?
Yeah.
That when those memories start to blur, that must be like this solidification that there's a real problem here.
Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Is it? It must be though a tremendous weight off when you realize that you're clean and that you're maintaining. I'm sure it's always something that kind of haunts you, but the idea that like you are able to start working again, maintain a career, get back to your regular life, and maintain sobriety.
Yeah,
that's got to be a weight off your shoulders.
Oh, it was a big weight off my shoulders. Get my life back in order and being able to be normal for once. Not be such an addict and when you're an addict and you're trying to hide it, you feel like a failure. You feel like you're sneaking around on somebody, and that I didn't want my wife to know. I didn't want Vince to know. I didn't want anyone to know how many I was taking. I was literally taking 65 a day. I was out of control, and I was spending, I don't know, probably $7,000 a month on painkillers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And that's because I even if I bought them with a script, I was buying 12 different scripts. And at different pharmacies. I had to keep tabs of every pharmacy I was going to, so those scripts didn't cross. There were to be two at one pharmacy. I had to make sure they all went to different pharmacies. So I had a tablet where I wrote down which pharmacy had what script.
Wow.
And I had 12 doctors write me scripts every month.
So not only are you doing this damage to yourself, but you're putting so much work into doing it. I mean, that's how powerful this thing is.
I did whatever I could to make it happen. It wouldn't. If I had to run 1,000 miles in the middle of the night naked, I would do it for the drug.
Wow.
That's how much control it had on me.
Wow.
I would do anything for it. You know what? I don't want to say this, but I would even go to the lengths of saying I might have killed for it.
Wow. At the
how
height
desperate
of
I was.
Yeah. Then it must be that when you do get control of it.
Yeah.
That's got to be empowering.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But when I went to rehab, I thought I was gonna fuck up. I thought when I get out, I'm gonna go right back to it. Like, I was scared to leave rehab, and it was only a month long, and I went through withdrawal for 7 days. And then the next 21 was, you're going to fuck up. You're going to fuck up. And, I was thinking, I don't want to leave here. I told my wife, I think I want to stay for a few months.
Yeah.
She's like, we miss you. Why don't you come back? You're allowed to come back in 3 weeks. I said, well, I'm just having a hard time. And I don't want to mess up.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I stay in here, I'll be okay. And so she talked me out of staying and said, listen, you'll have a great support system at home. And I was like, blah, blah, blah. Is that really going to help me?
Yeah.
But I was able to do it. I don't know how, but every week, every month got easier. I'm not going to lie to you. When I first got out, I was tempted every day, all day. But as years went by, it got easier. And it was like, okay, I can handle this now. I don't need those painkillers. Even if I'm in pain, I don't need them. I know I can live without them. So here I am now, and I'm still suffering. I have a lot of injuries, but I've learned how to maintain my body every day to make sure that I'm not feeling as much pain as I usually do. You know, I do a lot of exercises, stretching, yoga, core training. I do plyometrics. I do stretches with my neck and my arms and my shoulders, my chest, my lower back. I do anti-gravity. I do traction. I mean, I spend 3 hours a day maintaining my body.
Wow, just for maintenance.
Yeah.
And I think it's also worth noting that, like, you also said something a minute ago that you probably never would have said years ago, which is, I can't wrestle a match. You know what I mean? That psychology, there were probably points in your career where you also couldn't, and you did it anyway, and you did damage.
Yeah.
Like, you are at the point now where you've got that frame of mind where you could say, I can't do it.
Maybe it's because I don't have any painkillers.
yeah. It doesn't, there's nothing to lighten the load. So when you got back, first of all, were you surprised how long the TNA run lasted, that you were there for a decade?
Yes. Well, you know what? I signed 5 years, and you know, they gave me a formidable amount of money. I mean, more than you would expect. A lot more.
Wow.
Like, put it this way, $700,000 more than anybody else in the company, including the top dogs. Yeah. So I was making serious money.
Yeah.
And so after 5 years, they renewed the contract for another 5 years.
Was that surprising?
And they added another $100,000 per year. So
each year, or
each year. So I was like, gosh, I'm going to keep going. You know?
Yeah.
And so I went another 5 years, and then I spent one more extra year there, and that was really, really part time. And they gave me $700,000 for that year, and I only wrestled like 20 times.
Wow.
So it was a blessing.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided, you know what, I want to go back to WWE.
And that's when you get the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You're the GM. You also, I think everybody talks about that WrestleMania retirement match, but the year before,
Ronda.
You were in the match with Ronda, and I'll never forget the sort of vibe of that match. You could feel it in the audience. I remember sitting there in the audience and feeling everybody was skeptical.
Yeah.
Because Ronda's promos weren't strong leading into it, and people were like, I don't think, she doesn't have it. She doesn't have it. And then that match happens, and you could feel the crowd realizing, like, oh, we got something here. She's good. That had to be.
She practiced hard.
Yeah.
She didn't know I bring in-ring psychology, but what she did is she was able to memorize everything she needed to do, and the whole match was based around Ronda.
Yeah.
So it was all on her hands. Like, it depends on how good she was going to do, how good the match was going to be, and she nailed it. And I was like, this girl has something.
Yeah.
She could have a future in this business.
Yeah.
And I was honored to be her tag team partner, and it's with two people that I worked with for so many times in my career. Triple H and Stephanie. We even had the love triangle, So
you did.
It all tied in. It was really cool to give Ronda that night that WrestleMania moment.
Yeah, and it really was that for her. It was huge. There are 3 memes that you've been a part of, I feel like, in recent memory, right?
Yeah.
One is of course, the Kurt Angle face.
Yep.
Just the kind of befuddled face in the driveway.
Yeah. The 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah. Did you realize when you took that photo that it had?
No, I posted on Instagram, and then it went off. It went everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was pissed. I was like, they're making fun of me. And I told my partner on my podcast, I said, why are they making fun of me? He said, they're not making fun of you. It's a funny looking face, and it's actually a compliment.
Right.
I was like, why is it a compliment if they're making fun of it? He said, trust me, it's a compliment. Mm-hmm. So, and it went so viral, it went all over the world. I have people from India, Africa, Asia saying, hey, can you sign my meme photo? It's unbelievable. Like, it went all over the world.
Which is great, right? Yeah. You win a gold medal. You have an incredible WWE career.
They know me as the meme guy.
Yeah. After all of this. All because you posted that.
It's ridiculous.
The other meme is, of course, the Shield bringing their dad to Survivor Series, showing up
When I look like a fanboy.
in the back, but you're so happy.
I did that on purpose.
You did?
I wanted everybody to know I was excited like a little kid. Yeah.
Did you do that because like the character was excited, or you wanted people to know that you?
I wanted people to know that I was excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that kind of came through at the last minute, right?
Yeah,
You're going to join the Shield?
They told me the day before, listen, Roman can't wrestle. We're going to replace him with you. Okay. I'll be an honorary member of the Shield. That's
Strap
cool.
the vest on.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it for you to wear the vest? Did you ask to wear the vest?
No, they wanted me to.
Okay.
They wanted me to. And then they wanted me to do like these stunts where they wanted me to dive off the top rope like Seth and Dean were. Yeah. I was like, screw that. I said, what I'll do is I'll get down. I don't know if you saw the spot when they both jumped off.
Yeah.
I dropped down and didn't really jump. And the fans started laughing. That was my idea. I didn't want to jump off the top rope. Not at that point in my career. I was 50 years old.
Right. No. You made the right call. But you had that moment. And then the other meme, which to me this one's my favorite, even more so than the 1,000-yard stare, is the looking off into the distance before he gets punched guy. Triple H swinging
You know
back.
what? I did that on purpose too. I went, and I over-exaggerated so Triple H had time to hit me.
Yeah.
But it was so bad, it looked like I did plan it. Like it was horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. Like, why is Kurt just standing there? Then, boom.
That was a pro wrestling, I guess, gimmick.
Yeah.
That's what pro wrestlers would do. It's like when they sell, when they get hit in the stomach and they turn around in a circle and come back to you. It's like, why would they turn in a circle? You get in the stomach, just sell it.
Yeah.
You don't have to turn in a circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was me. I was just doing the... hit me.
Yeah, it's almost like you're out of practice, so the instincts go down, so you just start doing pro wrestling, like typical pro wrestling stuff, right?
Exactly.
And Triple H is waiting for it, I guess. But that's part of going through all these generations and all these eras is the way people take in content now and things spread, and you never know what's going to hit, right?
No, you don't. I mean, I've been out of the mix for years.
Yeah.
Here this meme comes in, and it actually made me valid for a while.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. I was getting a lot of attention, and what's crazy is I'll be on the streets, and I usually hear "Hey, Kurt Angle," and I have people going, "Wait, you're that meme guy?" I'm like, "No, I'm Kurt Angle." No, you're the meme guy. Why? Oh, you're Kurt Angle too?
Yeah.
So,
No, you're not Kurt Angle. You're the meme guy. Okay. What do you think of you seeing kind of history repeat itself a little bit? You turn on Monday Night Raw, and Chad Gable is almost like there's so much Kurt Angle in Chad Gable, and it doesn't even feel like it's an imitation. It just feels like he just kind of gets it the same way. You know what I mean? Now he's building that team the way Team Angle.
He is. I give him a lot of credit.
Yeah.
And I don't think he intended on copying me. Mm-hmm. I think the fans kind of forced him into it because he's an Olympic wrestler, and he has kind of the same personality as me, and then he started using the ankle lock, and I think even the angle slam, and so the fans were like, "This is the second coming of Kurt Angle,"
right?
And so I kind of felt badly for him.
It's a tough spot.
He didn't care. He was like, "Hey, if I'm compared to Kurt Angle, I'm fine with that."
Yeah.
But I don't think he is a comparison to me anymore. I think he's earned it, and that he is Chad Gable now.
I agree.
And what he's doing, he deserves all the credit for it.
Yeah. And if
He's that good. He really is.
If there is a similarity, I feel like it's not that he's doing things that you did. It's just that he also is one of those people that has such an incredibly the variety in his toolbox.
Yes.
His ability to do everything.
Yep. He has so much ability. That kid's so talented, and he has a lot of years left too.
Yeah. When you look at the landscape now and you realize
and the fans are chanting, "You suck," to him.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing. You couldn't have thought, this is going to be the thing that lasts my entire life. They're going to yell, "You suck" at me.
I know. They never stopped.
No.
I came back to WWE and they're right back at it. You suck. Yeah.
I did think that I had always wished that when you were GM, we got more of that comedic Kurt Angle. Like, for whatever reason, you ended up in this position that you were just kind of a straight GM.
Yeah.
But there was one moment in the very beginning of the GM run where this just stuck with me because it made me hopeful that we were going to get more of this. And we really didn't. But it was when you did a thing with like Enzo and Cass.
Yeah.
And Enzo said SAWFT soft, and they leave. And your timing on... That's not how you spell that word.
You know what? They told me they're going to bring Kurt Angle back.
Yeah.
And they only did it for one night.
Yeah.
I think they just forgot. I think they just dropped the ball because they wanted to do a lot of entertainment segments with me. And it just, they just forgot.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know why, because Vince made an emphasis in the meeting that, hey, listen, we need to bring Kurt's comedy back. So let's start doing pre-tapes where he's more entertaining. And they did that one, which was great, and then they dropped the ball.
That's it.
And that was it.
Yeah. As you look at the landscape now, and somebody that, you worked with, somebody that you saw as like, man, this guy's good, going back to the SummerSlam match where he helped you through the whole match that you couldn't remember. Triple H is finally in that position where he's running the show. What do you think of that development and kind of watching how it's played out with him in charge?
I love the fact that Triple H is in charge. He was always the one that I knew that could run the business and run it properly. He gets it. He gets the comedy. He gets the seriousness. He gets, these wrestlers needing to be world-class athletes, not just good workers, but great athletes. He just totally gets it. And he's one of those guys that is going to take chances, but not as much as Vince did. I think he's going to have more rational answers and programs that are going to make more sense and not so outlandish or goofy or crazy. I think that Triple H has a great mind for the business. He always has. I will tell you this, when I get in the ring with him, he is the one that I feel most secure about because he can lead you. He can lead you in a match and then go a separate way for another 10 minutes, improvise, and go back to the spot where you were ended with. He is just a great improviser. He knows every facet of the business, and I think that he is the one that should carry this company because he has a great mind.
Yeah,
he really does. He has the best mind of business of anybody I've known since Vince.
Wow. Did you feel that again at WrestleMania 34 when after all these years you're back in there with Triple H? Did you have this feeling of like, there it is?
Yes.
It is.
Yes. He's the man. He really is. And, the crazy thing is, they kept him down for a while when, he did that thing with the Kevin Nash and Shawn Michaels and when they all hugged
farewell
in the ring, the farewell click. And man, he paid the price for years.
Yeah, he did.
He ate shit for a long time.
Yeah.
You know what? He still came out of it, stronger than ever.
Yeah.
So, shows the kind of individual he is.
Yes, it absolutely does.
No give-up attitude.
It absolutely does. Yeah. Well, man, I mean, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, but, I don't want to have you trapped in my basement all day long.
I don't want to be trapped in your basement.
So we're talking about where can people help. What you were talking about at the beginning of the conversation about raising money for Olympic athletes. Yes.
Go to kurtangle.org.
Okay.
That doesn't mean I'm collecting all the money. This goes straight to USA Wrestling.
Give it to me. I'll give it to them. I promise.
They just wanted my name on it.
Yeah.
kurtangle.org. Go there. Donate whatever money you can. I promise it will come to good use. These athletes need your help because if you want them to dominate in the Olympics like they have been, the overall medal counts, United States is placed in the top 3 every Olympics for the last 40 years. If you want them to continue to dominate like that, we're going to have to do our part by giving money to these incredible athletes. So go to kurtangle.org and donate whatever money you can. I promise it will come to good use.
Yeah. And I mean, wrestling is that purest sport. If you want to go, hey, we're the premier country when it comes to athletics.
Yes.
My guys can beat your guys. when it comes to just straight wrestling.
Yep.
It's the best way to do it.
You're right.
It's the
You're
best.
absolutely right. You're
It's
right.
the best. And do you have a movie coming out as well?
Yeah, I have a movie. It's called Angle. It's my real life story.
Oh, wow.
We're in developmental right now. My directors are Ian and Esham Nelms. They're incredibly talented. They've done movies like Fat Man, starring Mel Gibson.
Oh, that was a great movie. I love that movie.
Red Right Hand, starring Orlando Bloom. They are very talented. They say this movie is going to have a Rocky type of feel with a little touch of The Fighter and Iron Claw. Now, it's going to be different than Iron Claw because Iron Claw's finish was really depressing.
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with that. I love the movie. But this ends on a good note.
Do we have any idea who's going to play Kurt Angle?
No, we're going to pick the cast members after we finish the fundraising, the investments.
Great. Okay, so yeah, be on the lookout for that. And when we're ready, you gotta come back.
I will come back on the podcast and promote the movie.
That's awesome, man. This is as somebody who I want to say for it's either my 17th or my 18th birthday, my parents thought it would be funny to give me a Kurt Angle cardboard cutout that is still, by the way, standing in their house.
No shit.
And it's your first one. And you got that $1 million
that cheesy
smile.
Yeah. I hate that thing. That was Vince ribbing me.
Yeah. Well, it's still effective. It has been, an absolute honor is an understatement.
you.
So thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.